Moin und herzlich willkommen wieder zurück bei The Hobbyist in der Kategorie Gaming mit Shadows of New York, und ich will gar nicht groß drum rumreden. Hier ist der zweite Teil, auf den ihr gewartet habt. Teil 3 insgesamt von Shadows of New York. Viel Spaß damit. March 2020. Back at it again, Big Beat Burger. Familiar sounds, familiar smells, familiar faces. Yet again, I'm recalling that night when everything finally seemed to change for the better. I mean, it's not like I wasn't expecting everything to go back to the old, depressing normal. Even in the thick of it, the relational part of me recognized my state as temporary. But with these highs, there's always a hope it won't end. Or maybe that an ego death will finally occur. Be satisfied, you stupid fucking bitch, I command you. Here's all the logical evidence for why you should be satisfied. Here's the obvious direction for your life. And here's a detailed explanation of how you should treat the people that care for you. No dice. I always fall back into the same old habits. It's like they were encoded deep in my DNA. The aimlessness, the powerlessness, the spiritual exhaustion, these goddamn fast food trips. The stupid fuck self-loathing now amplified whenever I drink somebody's blood. Maybe I should just blame it all on the misfortune of my birth. You do this social climbing until you dissociate. And when you are, you're just this untethered, constantly frustrated ball of dumb desires. Except I'm sort of immortal right now, and I need to figure out what to do next. I watched this obscure Asian movie once, Ali Lima Sabatani, starring Tabandu Asonu, one of the coolest guys in the world. He plays his Meersbow-like figure, a legendary noise musician. There's this mysterious virus spreading around the world, causing despair and mass suicides. A rich CEO's granddaughter gets sick and longs to die, so he spends a fortune searching for the cure. Witzig irgendwie, dass das jetzt irgendwie Covid und so. Naja. Turns out Asano and his friends, played by his violent onsen geisha guy, are traveling through Japan, searching the corpse-strewn towns and field for any unique item that can produce beautiful sounds. As it turns out, the avant-garde walls of noise they create are able to heal the infected. The CEO begs the band to help, offering them all the money they want, but for some reason they refuse. Through a series of flashbacks, concerts, and vignettes, mystery unfolds. Eventually we realize that Asano's music is not just a remedy, it's also cause of the virus. Whenever it connects with people, they get this hunger for more extreme, more novel experiences. And eventually they hit a wall. Nothing can satisfy them anymore. They lose their will to live. Not even the musicians are spared from this curse. They know the end will come sooner or later. The girl is saved by a mind-blowing concert, but the tragedy is merely postponed, not averted. The last shot of a Jesus-like Asano silently considering his role as savior and destroyer stayed with me. The form of the film is abrasive. Little to no narrative coherence, some weird cartoonish creative choices, the Japanese noise soundtrack, the very free-form and hard-to-understand weave of themes. But at this point, movies like this are all that truly connect with me. I'm the New York City representative of the Clan La Sombra, also known as the Night Clan. They are masters of shadows who cast distorted reflections and make modern tech go haywire in their presence. Last year, a few months before it was embraced, the La Sombra had joined with the Camarilla, the biggest and most traditional sect in the vampire world. The two groups actually used to fight each other, but our leaders found some intel that made them reconsider their strategy, so they sent a diplomatic mission to parley with their historical enemies. The deal they got in Chicago was simple: an unlife for an unlife. For every La Sombra vampire allowed in the Ivory Tower, one La Sombra vampire has to meet their ultimate end. Okay, das wusste ich noch nicht, ist aber geil zu wissen. I still remember the name of the woman who met her final death, so I could begin my own life. Her name was Hester Reed, a sworn enemy of the Camarilla, a guerrilla fighter who spent decades of opposing them. She was someone with far better principles than mine, from what I've gathered. Well, whoever she was, her execution by my sire served to convince the New York City elites to give us Lasombra a chance. Then they set out to look for a mutually agreed upon candidate who'd become the clan's rep in the city. My sire searched for someone who gave the impression she was more than she appeared. The local court was looking for someone they could walk all over. After long negotiations, they decided I was a good compromise. They proceeded to systematically destroy my entire life, just to make me show I was psychologically strong enough to join their ranks. The turncoat special, they call it, somehow I succeeded. And eventually led me right back to where I started. I stopped writing and put my pen down. Oh, die gute Frau kennen wir doch. Die ist The Scourge, also die, wie heißt es noch auf Deutsch? Der Bluthund des Sheriffs ist das. Will that be all? Yes, Miss Duval. I hope you enjoy your stay in London. Oh, very much I doubt I will. Just like every cultured person, I think the only good Englishman is a dead Englishman. Fucked up serial killer privileged scum. Just get the hell out. Yeah. Not interested in a small talk with someone as sociopathic as her, I finished the formalities in silence. Ooh, that will be all. Tell Kadira I said hello and farewell. Safe travels. Don't let the door hit you on the way out, psycho. Ha, well. I'm the lone Lasombra in this town, and my representational role means jack shit. No title, no perks, no whatever. Right now I'm the court's gopher, doing all sorts of work nobody else will touch. My main duties? Being a sort of immigration officer. See, New York City is probably the biggest vampire travel hub in the USA, and definitely the biggest one on the East Coast. Almost every kindred arriving from Africa and Europe comes through here. Sorry. The local Camarilla is nuts about bureaucracy and population control, so every vampire leaving or arriving in this town is supposed to check with me and to inform me about their travels. Well, in theory at least, the VIPs play by the different rules. They take care of this stuff through connections and servants. But for the smaller fish, I'm like a vampire Statue of Liberty. The first bloodsucker every kindred coming to New York City should see, on paper anyway. The first after the prince, or Kadir, the primogene council, these things vary. Yeah, I'm naturally traitorous Lasombra, so they still prefer being traditional and hands-on about these things. As I said, at the end of the day, I'm just a gopher, and this work only serves to remind me I'm not quite in, just standing at the gate. They haven't given me an office. I just meet everyone in the public places, such as in coffee shops or this fast food restaurant. Some consider this an insult and lash out on me, but luckily most of them understand we're in the same boat. Only here because we're curs who need to be reminded of our place from time to time. Speaking of, my last client is 15 minutes late and I still have more errands to run tonight. This is getting irritating. To be honest, I should just find self-respect and leave. But I won't. My sorry upbringing left me with this stupid sense of responsibility. 10 more minutes pass. Eventually, an unfamiliar woman appears by the door. She tells someone to stand by the door and walks in. Oh. Ich habe dieses Bild schon gesehen, bevor ich das Spiel gespielt habe. Und es gab in dem allerersten Vampire-Spiel, was ich kenne, Redemption hieß das, gab es eine Frau mit dem Namen Ekaterina. Eine sehr, sehr starke Bruja. Und die hat auch immer so ihr Gesicht verbergen müssen, weil sie darunter verbrannt war und man ihre Fänge sehen konnte und alles. Das wäre krass, wenn die das wäre. Long chestnut hair, body stock in her late teens. By the look of it, a fashionable scarf covering most of her face. Elegant clothes, dignified walk. I signal her to sit in front of me, trying my best not to let my impatience show. She obliges. You're here to check it in? Check in? Okay. Ach so. I am. Julia Savinsky, I presume? She's scanning her surroundings like we're at a circus. I hope you won't mind if I make it quick. I'm needed in the Elysium. Name? Sie ist es tatsächlich! Catherine Wiese. Oder Catherine Wiese. Krass. Das ist sie. Ich glaube, das ist sie tatsächlich. Huh? I swear I've heard that name before. Someone else's description of her crossed my mind. That weird lady who owns the art hole but is never there. Weird? So it's Catherine Wiese, the owner of the art hole, de facto headquarters of New York City's Camarilla. Ah ja, stimmt. Da findet immer das Elysium statt. For fuck's sake, Julia. What are you doing calling her weird right off the bat? God knows you're already make a fool out of yourself in front of enough VIPs in the city. Recover. I'm sorry, it's just that I still don't know many people there. So I have to go by the descriptions I'm giving by the members of the Primogen. Well, the description is mostly correct. Outside of that, one word that slightly perplexes me. Pot calling the cattle black sounds like... Uh-oh, from what I gathered, it's just that your interests are rumored to be not fully aligned with the Camarillas, and it irks some folks up there. Being a keeper of the Elysium is not enough for some. I see. I suspected as much, but what can you do? She seems chill. Good. Anyway, Catherine Wiese. Wow. Yes. Want me to spell it? People often have trouble getting it right. Forgive my indiscretion. Indiscretion. It's just that people of your stature usually don't bother checking in with me. They usually report their arrival to one of the Primogen, and they make all the arrangements. I heard Prince Panhard is busy with the preparations for her big party. I assumed that if I spare her some paperwork, she'd appreciate it as gesture of goodwill. Besides, I wanted to meet the infamous La Sombra representative out of sheer curiosity. My interest piqued once I heard about her. She looks around knowingly. Unique circumstances. Yes, Prince Helene Panhard had trouble justifying the exorbitant rent my property would need. That's literally pennies for her, and as far as I know, she's been sitting on an empty property since last year. Looks like they've got it out for you. Bad. That's what I'd assumed, but it's nice to get a confirmation. Well, it's not like my clan has ever been particularly popular in these parts. At least, that's what I've heard. Since of the farces and so on. Yes. Just to make sure you've never met Hester, but you know of her? I do know I wouldn't be here if not for her. Have you two met? No, I only heard of her once or twice. We had similar outlooks on many issues, although we tended to come up with completely different solutions. In any case, I think it's meaningful that Hester died so that you could live. They feared her. Now they fear you, and that's why they are keeping you down. If anybody who's not a VIP said this to me, I'd laugh in their face. Oh, I get what she's doing. She's trying to buy me favors. But not to act like I'm easy to please. Stick to business. Time will tell. In the meantime, I'll need you to help me out with my documentation. Of course. So, where are you coming from? Washington, D.C. She stays in the way people in Hollywood movies say it. The way that suggests Washington is wildly different from the Washington you and I would see. What were you doing there? Take a guess. Government work? Write that down. I ought to amuse Celine a little bit. If you say so. Date and hour of your arrival? She takes out a plane ticket and slides it towards me. It's all here. 1 a.m. Got it. Method of transit plane. Purpose of visit? Meeting with Prince. Ought to work just fine. I guess. Estimated duration of visit? Undefined. Write in 6 months if you really need to. Place of accommodation? Conditions of intended stay? The art hole. Conditions should be adequate. You tell me. I tend to be happy with Airbnb, home sweet home. I'm not certain that I ever felt particularly at home here. That makes 2 of us. Curious. Do you have nothing holding you here? The face of a blonde-haired friend appears in my mind's eye, then vanishes. There's nothing holding me anywhere. I see. A prolonged silence. She stares into my eyes and I return the stare. She's studying me. It's unnerving, but I do my best not to turn away. Eventually, she smiles. Didn't you say you were short on time? Oh god, yes, Kadir will kill me. I quickly begin to collect my stuff from underneath the table. You can simply inform him I paid you a visit. He'll understand and he'll pass it on to everyone who should be in the know. Need anything else? I'll do that, yeah. You're a big deal, huh? Do you need anything else? I'm fine. I was about to ask you that myself. You're the one asking questions here. That's all from me. Good. We'll see each other soon, I hope. The party tomorrow night? Oh, I wasn't invited. She gives me a pitying look. I understand. Well, if not given the opportunity, we should make our own. I'll be in touch. Good night, Miss Weiss. I wish you a pleasant stay. Good night, and don't rush these things. You've got your whole unlife ahead of you, and you're in a position where you can take it easy. Take your time, get a different perspective. I nod and walk slowly out the door. When I lose sight of the restaurant, I sprint toward the subway. Slow night. Oh, wie sieht er denn aus? Okay, er sieht ein bisschen krasser aus als bei Coteries of New York. I wish. You're late again, by the way. I hope you have a good excuse. Kadir al-Asmai, the mighty sheriff of New York City, is not happy with me. No wonder. I met him in front of Elysium 30 minutes later than the time we had agreed on. Yeah, well, Catherine fucking Weiss decided to arrive fashionably late. A likely story. She's supposed to be out of the city. If you think I'm pulling your leg, boss, feel free to check my report. I have passed him all the official papers. The way I do every other night, Kadir stares me down for a good few seconds, then his steezy gaze softens. You are serious? Weiss in McDonald's. With a mask and elegant clothes, surrounded by the smell of French fries and hamburger patties? That must have been one hell of a sight. Technically, it was BBB, not McDonald's, but yeah. God, I made such a fool of myself. First thing I did, I quoted somebody calling her a weirdo. I wanted to die on the spot. Serves you right. You walking faux pas. You walking faux pas, yeah. I've been trying to teach you to control your tongue, but you never learn. It's a new gaff every week with you. Still, there's good news and bad news. The good news is Catherine has a fondness for vampires of humble beginnings. Probably why she decided to see you in your, shall we say, natural habitat. She's one of those rich art scene assholes who seek out working class cred. But it's something about watching your tongue. The bad news is she's very astute, so she can recognize a moron like you straight away. You never stood a chance at impressing her. Oh, shut up. You still need me for anything here? I'll get it on straight away. I wouldn't be standing out here chatting with you if I hadn't taken care of my duties. 30 minutes is all I took to finish preparations for the big party. I'm about to see everyone off. Sorry. Couldn't be helped, I suppose. And it's more up your loss than mine. I just wanted some company tonight, and you could really use the chance to appear here in official duties so everyone can get to know your face. Heaven knows your fast food job isn't going to get you anywhere. You need to do what they call it, hustle? You don't need to tell me that. But it's not like being paraded around for a bunch of blue-blooded douchebags is. He somehow managed to give me a painful nudge in the back, without so much as a hint of a visible movement. Language, you fool. They are coming out. Just stand here in silence for 5 minutes and focus on not embarrassing yourself any further, will ya? Got it. The first two silhouettes appeared in the doorway of the art hall. An old man in a wheelchair pushed forward by his young servant. Haven't seen either of them before. Okay. Mr. Payne, the night is still young. Hope you find the rest of it pleasant. Payne, the wheelchair. I've heard about him. Edison Payne, one of the American Camarula's main connections to the government and Wall Street. Disabled in quite a few ways. Needs a servant to communicate. I'd be full of resentment if I was embraced in this condition, but apparently Payne is nothing but grateful for his immortality. He keeps writing fervent defenses of the traditions and Camarula customs. Sagt, ich soll ruhig bleiben. He wordlessly shakes Kadir's hand, but doesn't give Deing to acknowledge me. At least his servant gives me a small bow. I return it. They leave. Kadir turns to the next person leaving. High Regent! Can't wait to see you in your outfit. Ailing Sternbridge ist also auch mit von der Partie. Spare me, Sheriff. These fancy dress parties cause me enough suffering without your help. I can only hope you haven't conspired with Helene to embarrass me with this gift. She points to a shrink-wrapped set of clothes she's carrying inside her coat. Kadir smirks briefly. I didn't have to. As you well know, Prince Panna displays a considerable foresight in the matter of party planning. Yes, if there's one thing she's deathly serious about, it's frivolities. A recognizable mortal quality, especially for a prince. We ought to celebrate it, not oppose it. Don't worry, Sheriff. I'm a big girl who knows her etiquette. I will play your game, amuse the crowd a little bit, and return to my study as fast as possible. Ailing Sturbridge, High Regent of the Chantry of the Five Boroughs, a hero of battle of New York. The biggest warlock in town, could be a prince herself, if she didn't have her eyes on a bigger prize. The thing is, nobody knows what that prize is. They only know it has something to do with her goal of her thaumaturgical research. Whoever tried to find out what it is failed violently. Oh, I'm sure you're going to have fun. Miss Sawinski here has just informed me Catherine Weiss is back in town. It is safe to assume she will join our festivities. You are kidding me. It's not safe to assume, it's certain. She told me she will be here tomorrow night. Weiss, excellent. I'd love to catch up with her. The barely concealed venom in her voice clearly suggests that, in fact, she'd hate to catch up with her. Yes, it looks like tomorrow night will be very special. But for now, I bid you adieu. And she's gone. Is there some kind of story between Ailing and Weiss that I should be aware of? You could say that. High Regent Sturbridge once attempted to call for a bloodhunt on Weiss. Oha. Wow, why? I've heard 5 different versions of the story, and all of this seems very plausible. Catherine's relationship with this city is odd, to say the least, but hush for now. He's obviously trying to kill the conversation, and the appearance of Thomas Arturo gives him the perfect way out. Mr. Arturo? Und da ist er. Ich hab schon gefragt, wann wir ihm wieder begegnen. Ah, alles Mai. Keep up the good work, eh? Of course. Thomas Arturo, an architect by trade. He's a herald, a member of a Prince Panhard's inner circle, an eccentric whose thoughts seem to be 10 times faster than his words. Any task for me, Mr. Arturo? I'm always ready to prove myself. Ah, yes, yes. He disappears into the night. Well, that was brief. Maybe I should stand in their way. That might force them to properly acknowledge my existence. You severely underestimate their dedication to ignoring whelps like you. And just in case you're serious, I beg of you, don't. I've been meaning to task you this for a while now, but never had the opportunity. You really hate Arturo's guts, don't you? He carefully measures his diplomatic response. I have no strong feelings about Thomas Arturo whatsoever. Yeah, well, considering you're always listing positives about every local Camarilla representative under the moon, you might as well have called him a cunt. Language, whelp! And as for Arturo, I will share my opinion about him as soon as I come up with one that sticks for more than a week. A group of kindred emerges from the Arto, rushing towards the street. Only a noble-looking woman stops next to us. She's wearing a hijab, but curiously enough doesn't hide her hair beneath it. Primogen? If you were rude enough to stare, you'd quickly notice her clothes serves mostly to cover up her horrifying scars. Ah. Kadir. Oh, and young Julia. I'm doing my best not to stare because Samira is one of the few New York City Camarilla figures who hasn't been an asshole to me yet. Still here? Did the prince require the clan of the Huns counseled in some matter? Clan of the Huns? Okay, das muss ich mir tatsächlich gleich mal im Dictionary angucken. Clan of the Huns? Ach, die Banu Hakim, ja klar, okay. Alles klar. Das sind Assassinen früher gewesen. Die hießen auch, wie hießen die denn nochmal? Was wird A? Egal, fällt mir später wieder ein. Yes, I advised her that no matter how hard she tries, she should expect me to wear a different costume tomorrow night. She's the Banu Hakim Primogen. Just like the La Sombra, their clan was independent from the Camarilla until relatively recently. However, they negotiated a better deal than we did. They have a Primogen for one. Hailing from the Middle East, the Banu Hakim are drawn to the practice of justice. The rules must be upheld and every transgression punished. They don't have much say in New York City, but the prince often seeks their judgment. It's just good PR. I trust she was understanding. Those are beautiful clothes. Thank you so much. I'm eager to see the outfit you came up with. And how are you, Julia? Have you seen any lights at the end of the tunnel? Same old, Samira. Still wandering in the dark, bumping my shin every 2 steps. Sorry to hear that. I trust you're pestering the prince and your superiors to improve your standing. It's a process. Oh, Julia. You won't achieve anything if you don't keep reaching for it. Kadir, weren't you supposed to teach her the ropes? I'm trying to, Primogen, but with this child it's always a process. I can only wish you good luck, then. Good night, Julia. Good night, Kadir. Good night. Have a safe trip. The Arto has to be almost empty by now. You like her, don't you? Stop with your class clown act, whelp. It only serves to reveal deep insecurities. Wow, that's harsh. It's factual, whereas as harsh as you claim. She did tell us both to call her Samira, but you're still keeping your distance with that Primogen shit. Watch your profanity. And don't project your fantasies onto me. I won't give you a lesson about professional boundaries. but I suspect the way you will eventually learn it will be extremely unpleasant. Oh Gott, wer ist das? Carter Vanderweyden. Am I interrupting something, good folks? Even though I'm constantly pestering on him, Kadier's composure is unshaken. His response comes swift and unfazed. Not at all, Mr. Vanderweyden. Vanderweyden? Heading back to your office? You know me, my dear sheriff. Where else would I go? Now that's curious. Even though Carter Vanderweyden is a primogen as well, Malkavian to be precise, I don't hear Kadier's address him as much. Hope to see you tomorrow night. Oh, I will absolutely show up, provided I can. But just in case, I already apologize for not making it to the prince simply drowning in work these days. The rhythms, tempo, and intonation patterns of his voice are so familiar. Half of it sounds like JFK, the other half exactly like Barack Obama. Just like his appearance, it all feels so fake. He's old money, of course. Comes from a long line of Dutch merchants who originally settled in the New York region, runs a wildly successful law office, rubs elbows with elites of both kindred and kind, varieties alike. He seems perfect in every way, and that's why he's so unnerving. He's a child of Malkav and must be blighted with some affliction, but whatever it is, he doesn't let it show. Hard not to wonder what he's hiding. Das ist das Gefährliche, wenn du an einem Malkavian nicht erkennen kannst, was ihn verrückt macht, dann ist das ein krasser. The celebrations are planned to last all week. Surely you will find the time. I pray I will, my good man, I pray I will. In case you need to reach me, you know where to find me. Have a good one. It doesn't even register my presence before leaving. Sometimes I think they're still hoping I will simply go away. As Carter drives away in his limousine, Kadir shakes his head. You wanted to hear about which member of New York City's camarilla I dislike the most? Yes? He shoots me a knowing glance and smirks. Too bad they are all my dear colleagues, and I deeply respect every single one of them. Sure you do. Wouldn't want to blurt out something that could lock you out of Mr. Vanderweyden's legal service, would you? You ass-kisser? I do expect to find myself in need of a good defense attorney when my broke, incompetent and foul-mouthed assistant finally pushes me over the edge. Rude. Do you still need me here? I still need to swing by St. Patrick's tonight. Don't worry, we're almost done. The prince is coming out. The captain is the last person to leave the ship, huh? And there she is, Helene Panhard, the big kahuna, as someone I once knew would call her, the de facto ruler of New York City, and a self-professed patron of the arts. Kadir, a penny for your thoughts? You should be pleased to hear the High Regent is resigned to her fate, my prince. Mr. Vanderweyden is decidedly not. I suspect he will be too busy to join the festivities all the week through. Excellent. She turns to me. Miss Sawinski, weren't you supposed to accompany our good sheriff in his duties tonight? There was an unexpected change of plans. Catherine Weiss is back in the city. Catherine is here. Now that's a welcome surprise. But what does it have to do with you, Miss Sawinski? She said she didn't want to trouble you with all the paperwork regarding her arrival, Prince Panhard. It's all been taken care of. Kadir has already been informed of everything. That's certainly a nice gesture, but wait a minute now. Where exactly did you meet her? In a fast food restaurant, my prince. I see. Helene rubs her eyes. Catherine and her love for proletarian amusement. I suppose it will be a source of her music anecdotes this week. If you want to avoid these situations in the future, it might be a good time to discuss offering Miss Sawinski an office of her own. Well, get to it eventually. There are more pressing matters at hand. The festivities start tomorrow and there is still so much to be done. Will you make sure the art hall is secure before leaving? Certainly, my prince. Have a good night. Good night, Kadir. Good night, Miss Sawinski. We'll talk about your work soon. Don't worry. Of course. Good night, Prince Panhard. The chauffeur escorts her to a limo. There's an awkward silence between me and Kadir until the car disappears around the corner. More pressing matters, huh? A penny for your thoughts, Sheriff? I'm certain an image of Keeper of the Elysium stuck in a fast food restaurant will linger in the Prince Panhard's mind. You're far closer to your goal than you were a few minutes ago. I'm pretty sure I've heard you say something to that effect a few times now. And I stand by my words. Rome wasn't built in a day, Julia. As a Camarilla loyalist, don't you think it sucks that the Ivory Tower is so hell-bent on showing disrespect to my clan? They are all actually willing to make fools of themselves in the process? We've all had to endure our own hazing rituals, but yes, the current situation is not ideal. Whatever, you need a hand closing up the asylum? Asylum. Asylum war auch gut. Elysium. I'll manage. It's getting late. Better run. Some shadow in Chicago is probably impatient to get a copy of the reports you've given me. You've pleased one master, now it's time to please the other. Yeah, here's the thing about working for two masters. Neither of them really thinks of you as their own. Not knowing how to reply, Kadir shrugs. I wave to him goodbye and head for the subway. So, wir sind schon ziemlich weit fortgeschritten und ich wollte eigentlich gar nicht so lange machen. Deswegen werde ich jetzt hier bei St. Patrick's eine Pause einlegen. Und ich hoffe auch, ihr seid das nächste Mal wieder mit dabei, wenn es wieder heißt Shadows of New York. Bis dann. Tschüss.